ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 p.m. in Lagos. Good evening and welcome to Newslink, coming to you live from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. First, our top stories. First, tensions arise over Nigeria's electoral timetable as plenary holds emergency session to address the situation.
Every Nigerian knows that that timetable will be revised.
I'm giving up on anything that concerns INEC in Nigeria.
Media organizations in Guinea demand reopening of closed outlets. 39th AU Summit concludes in Addis Ababa with renewed commitment to peace and security.
We need peace and stability on our continent, and we have a program to achieve this. We have also decided to address our problems by introducing reforms.
And WADR takes World Radio Day to communities in the Gambia. Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Sankulu to Real Jungle.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast this evening. We begin with the 39th Summit of Heads of State and Government of the African Union, which concluded on Sunday in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Beyond closed discussions by regional leaders, about 50 side events brought together civil society actors and development partners. This year's central focus was on improving access to safe drinking water and sanitation. Here's a report by WDR's Abdullahi Hassan in Addis Ababa.
At the closing press conference, Burundian President Evariste Ndayishimiye, who holds the organization's rotating chairmanship for the next year, stated that African leaders had reached a consensus on several priority issues facing the continent.
Toutes les délégations ont réitéré leur engagement.
All delegations reaffirmed their commitment to building a more effective African Union, one that is citizen-centered and capable of strongly voicing the aspirations of the continent. Together, we adopted decisions, celebrations, and resolutions during this session, with a firm determination to translate our commitment into concrete actions that serve every African.
The African Union is prioritizing an African-led solution to the conflict in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, according to Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, chairperson of the AU Commission.
The African Union is now, I would say, in the best position to lead this mediation process and not leave it solely to external partners to try to resolve African problems. The Washington Agreement was well received by the African Union as well as the Doha Declaration. But now it is up to the African Union to move forward in the mediation and stabilization process.
He added that the AU's peace approach also stresses the need to end other conflicts across the continent.
We need peace and stability on our continent, and we have a program to achieve this. We have also decided to address our problems by introducing reforms. How we handle issues of peace and security, as well as economic and trade challenges. If we do not commit ourselves to resolving these problems, it will be difficult for us to achieve our objectives.
Mahmoud Ali Yusuf further noted that the Conference of Heads of State recognized colonization as a crime against humanity and reaffirmed the African Union's solidarity with the Palestinian people.
Abdullahi Hassan reporting from Addis Ababa. Meanwhile, Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama is expected to present a resolution at the United Nations General Assembly in March, seeking a global recognition of the transatlantic slave trade as a grievous crime against humanity. The proposal, adopted by the African Union, forms part of wider continental efforts to advance the reparations agenda. An announcement was made during Mahama's report to the 39th Assembly of Heads of State and Government, where he spoke in his capacity as AU champion for advancing the cause of justice and the payment of reparations.
Beginning 20th February 2026, Ghana will conduct intensive diplomatic engagements in New York with CARICOM, the Non-Aligned Movement, the Group of 77 and China, the European Union, and other regional groupings. Informal consultations on the draft text are expected to take place between 23rd February and 12th March 2026. Our objective is simple: to build a broad consensus behind this resolution. The initiative is not directed at any nation. It is directed towards truth, recognition, and reconciliation. On 24th March, Ghana will host a high-level side event at the United Nations, followed by a wreath-laying ceremony at the African Burial Ground National Museum in New York. And on 25th March 2026, the International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade. Ghana, together with co-sponsors and with the endorsement of the African Union, will formally table the resolution before the General Assembly. The date is intentional because it connects memory with action. We call upon all member states to support and co-sponsor this resolution. The adoption of this resolution will not erase history, but it will acknowledge it.
Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama. Before leaving Addis Ababa, civil society, youth groups and policy communities are expressing cautious optimism about the new leadership of the African Union. Their position echoes a memorandum issued by a coalition led by the Open Society Foundation during the Assembly of Heads of State at the 39th Summit. Many observers say the new AU chairperson, Burundian President Evariste Ndayishimiye, must move beyond declarations and take concrete steps to address the continent's multiple political, economic and security challenges. Desiree Azog-Bavi is African advisor at OSIWA.
I believe that if there is anything urgent that the new chairpersons of the union need to focus on is the issue of security. And I really want to believe that because of his own background, because of his previous leadership at regional level, and also his proximity to some of the hot space in the continent, the Sahel, but also the Great Lake region, I believe he will be able to leverage on all those things to tackle the issue of peace and security, and be able to bring people who are involved in the existing discussions together so that they find peaceful solutions. That's the first point. The second one is about consolidating the unity of the continent. That is very important. We just talk about having critical mineral deal with external partners. And it is sad to see that African countries are still going individually to sign deal. I'm hoping that the new chairperson will be able to consolidate the unity of the continent, especially when it is about discussing how we manage our mineral resources.
Desiree Azog-Bavi is Africa advisor at OSIWA.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Nigeria, the recent announcement of electoral reform continues to generate fresh tensions across the country. This development has drawn criticism from civil society organizations, warning against actions that could undermine the electoral confidence. The House of Representatives is expected to hold an emergency sitting regarding the timetable for the 2027 general elections. WDR's Abuja correspondent Yechenu Sasetu explains the details.
The planned emergency session follows growing concerns around recent decisions affecting the electoral process, including discussions linked to the 2027 election timetable and ongoing legislative engagements on electoral amendments. Executive Director of Yaga Africa, Samson Itodo, denounces the rescheduling discussions.
Every Nigerian knows as of today that that timetable will be revised, and INEC will have to issue a revised timetable, not just because of religious observances, but because the Senate, in its own version of the bill, already altered timelines.
He explains that revisiting election timelines without clear justification could disrupt preparations by political parties, civil society groups, and electoral stakeholders, potentially affecting voter confidence and institutional credibility.
And so when you think about it and you look at the calendar and you see how this date shifts, it then means that if we're going to be having elections when, whether it's Muslim or Christian fasting is taking place, then there won't be certainty with respect to the timetable for elections.
Meanwhile, Public conversations are also intensifying around the proposed budget for the elections, with many Nigerians questioning the size of the allocation amid prevailing economic challenges.
I've given up on INEC. I don't know. I've given up on anything that concerns INEC in Nigeria.
Whether we like it or not, some people are going to be making money, very big money from this election.
But as we speak today, the exchange rate has doubled.
355 to 873 billion naira is justifiable. But where we'll start to have some question is when we see the breakdown.
Some increase is understandable, but doubling the cost raises serious concern.
According to observers, the outcome of the deliberations could shape early preparations for 2027, especially as debates around electoral transparency, funding, and technological reforms continue to dominate national discourse. For the ADR, Yechenusa Situ in Abuja.
Now to security matters, calm has returned to Titao town in northern Burkina Faso following multiple terrorist attacks over the weekend. This was announced by the Burkinabe army, which stated that several assailants were neutralized. The weekend attack was the first of its scale since extremist violence began in the country in 2015. Widespread reports indicate that at least 10 people died, though there hasn't been an official confirmation from the Burkinabe authorities. Like Mali and Niger, Burkina Faso has been facing jihadist attacks for several years, causing political instability, which in recent years has resulted in coups and several failed attempts. In a related development, Ghana's Ministry of the Interior has confirmed reports of the terrorist attack in Titao, Burkina Faso, involving a truck carrying tomato traders from Ghana. According to a statement signed by the Minister for Interior and National Security, Muntaka Mohamed Mubarak, the truck transporting Ghanaian traders was caught up in the attack. It described the incident as disturbing, with concerns raised about the safety of those on board. The statement reveals that Ghana's embassy in Burkina Faso had begun engaging local authorities to gather further details and confirm the identities of any Ghanaians affected. The development comes amid heightened security concerns across parts of the Sahel region, where terrorist attacks have become increasingly frequent in recent years. Elsewhere, Niger's head of state, Abdurrahman Tiani, is on a working and friendship visit to Algeria. He arrived in Algiers on Sunday and was received with full honors by his Algerian counterpart, Abdelmajid Tebboune. Since taking power in 2023, this is Tiani's first visit to Algeria, which aims to normalize diplomatic relations and strengthen cooperation between the two countries. Christopher Atichi tells us more in the following report.
General Tiani received a warm welcome at Algiers airport by President Abdelmajid Tebboune, followed by an official reception at the presidential palace. The two heads of state held talks focused on restoring diplomatic relations after months of tension. Discussions also covered efforts to revitalize economic cooperation. General Tiani is accompanied by a high-level ministerial delegation, including the Ministers of Defense, Foreign Affairs and Energy. Niger, a producer of oil and uranium, and Algeria have launched several cooperation projects in the energy sector. General Abdurrahman Tiani is also expected to meet members of the Algerian parliament and government on Monday for further discussions. After months of diplomatic tension with countries of the Confederation of the Sahel states, Algeria has been stepping up initiatives aimed at normalization. Last Friday, Algiers announced strengthened cooperation with Burkina Faso in mining, energy and hydrocarbon sectors. However, this renewed cooperation with Niger and Burkina Faso contrasts with ongoing tensions between Algeria and Mali. Algeria had previously shut down a Malian military drone which, according to Algerian authorities, had illegally entered its airspace.
Christopher Aticho reporting there. We head to Guinea now, where the media organizations are calling for the reopening of several outlets that have been shut down by the authorities for more than 2 years. These media houses, widely followed across the country, were considered too critical of the government during the military transition. At the time, authorities say the closures were necessary given the exceptional political context. The country held presidential elections in December 2025, with legislative and local elections expected in the coming months. Journalists are now hoping the closed media outlets will be allowed to resume operations alongside greater respect for press freedom. WDR's Nadi Ditete reports.
Sidibe Inbani, who hosted a widely followed interactive program on FIM FM, says the sudden closure of the station abruptly slowed his journalism career. Mamoudou Diallo, a former host of a popular local language program on Espace FM, says the 2-year shutdown has forced him to focus full-time on other work away from radio broadcasting. Amadou Uribari, a former senior reporter at FIM FM, hopes the station will soon return to the airwaves. In the meantime, he plans to leave Conakry and return to his village several hundred kilometers away as he struggles to meet his daily needs without employment in the capital. As Guinea moves beyond its transition period, media professionals say they are hopeful for the reopening of closed outlets and full press freedom in the country.
Conakry correspondent Cherno Alpha Ibrahim Balde's report voiced by Nadi Ditete. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Fresh tensions rise over Nigeria's electoral timetable as plenary holds emergency session to address the situation. Media organizations in Guinea demand reopening of closed outlets. 39th AU Summit concludes in Addis Ababa with renewed commitment to peace and security. And WDR takes World Radio Day to communities in the Gambia. Still ahead, we have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
World Radio Day celebrations on February 13. West Africa Democracy Radio WDR held a community outreach in Niamey, the Gambia's North Bank region. The event brought together residents, local leaders and media partners to discuss the future of broadcasting. It was held under the theme, Making Artificial Intelligence a Safe Ally for Radio. The program focused on how emerging technologies are influencing journalism while maintaining credibility and public trust. WDR's Banjul correspondent Sang Donald Mendy reports.
The outreach is aimed at strengthening ties with communities and reaffirming radio's role as credible and trusted source of information. During the event, participants highlighted the importance of radio in their daily lives.
A lot of people get the information at the same time, and I am grateful that we are celebrating this day.
Radio is a two-way traffic. You are there talking, people call. You are now connecting. This is why it's called two-way traffic. There is no barrier now.
Representing the managing director of WADR, Agnes John Tomasi, the partnership and project coordinator of West Africa Democracy Radio, Deborah Amor, underscored the significance of the gathering.
We had people with disabilities talking about how if they cannot read the newspaper, they cannot watch a television, they can hear a radio. In some cases, there are people that can't hear, and it's just to show that radio's power cannot be limited by technological advancements, and that was the theme of our discussion.
Also speaking at the event, the president of the Women Journalists Association, Annette Kamara, urged journalists to maintain balance and fairness when reporting on gender-related issues.
And as radio presenters and journalists, when we report, we always have to be gender balanced, gender conscious, and gender sensitive.
Participants also discussed the opportunities artificial intelligence presents for newsrooms, including support for research and fact-checking, while emphasizing the need for clear ethical standards to safeguard credibility. Meanwhile, community representatives welcomed the initiative, describing radio as a vital platform for dialogue, inclusion, and accountability. World Radio Day is observed annually to recognize radio's contribution to information access, social inclusion, and democratic debate. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdona Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
Authorities in Côte d'Ivoire have announced a zero-tolerance policy to tackle road indiscipline, particularly in the economic capital Abidjan, as part of efforts to reduce rising road accidents. The Ministry of Transport says measures are being introduced to improve road safety after more than 500 accidents and at least 160 deaths were recorded since the start of 2026. Tougher penalties for major traffic offences and surprise vehicle inspections are among the measures being introduced. In 2024, Côte d'Ivoire recorded more than 10,000 road accidents, resulting in at least 1,000 deaths. Have a listen to one of the drivers.
They are becoming difficult to deal with, many of whom do not know how to ride motorcycles properly and have little understanding of traffic rules. Very few hold valid license, which means they often don't know how to position themselves safely on the road. They need proper training, knowledge of the highway code, and valid driving license so they can ride safely.
That was an Ivorian driver speaking.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is The Guest.
The guest interview segment focuses on the just ended 39th AU Summit in Addis Ababa, where the Open Society Foundation, OSIWA, and 80 pressure groups demanded protection of human rights, justice, governance, and peace in Africa. The call was contained in joint memorandum by civil society, youth groups, legal and policy communities across global Africa. Led by Open Society Foundation, OSIWA, the groups call on heads of state to move beyond declarations and take concrete steps to defend constitutional democracy, protect human rights, address ongoing conflicts, and strengthen governance institutions. The community insists that the continent cannot demand international justice while tolerating injustice at home. Our guest is Desiree Asokbavi, Africa advisor at OSIWA, who spoke with WDR's Abdullah Hassan about the memorandum.
And let me start by saying that for us at the Open Society Foundations, the voice of African citizens should be heard whenever the AU Summit is meeting, whenever leaders are getting the same together. This is actually one of the reasons why the old Organization of African Unity has been transformed to the African Union. So for us, it's important that these continents operate from the point of view of citizens as well as leadership. So the first thing we discuss about is to see the situation in which the continent is now. In the last few years, you have seen how much civic space have been reduced. Fundamental human rights have been literally violated to a point that human rights violation is now becoming the normal. This is not acceptable at all. The constitutionalism doesn't mean anything, for many countries within the continent. Elections are not held according to the policy established by the African Union itself. So this moment allows us to go through all those situations. We should not forget the conflicts that are happening within the continent and that are stopping the development process. So for us, this call through the memorandum is to look at human rights situations and to reestablish confidence for citizens in their own institutions.
So at the continental level, do you think the APRM mechanism will be of greater importance if respected and duly implemented?
APRM is actually a very progressive organ that you don't find anywhere in the world. The problem is that it's not being implemented, vis-a-vis the fundamental idea by which the institution was set up. So APRM needs to come back, it needs to be revamped, so that, the idea of reviewing how the democracy progress is going, how human rights principles are being observed, can help the country basically to establish a strong democracy.
I know for OSIWA and also part of this memorandum that was reached at the 39th AU Summit, talked about reparations. How so and how important is it that AU really leads the discussion and makes sure that whatever demands are on the table are duly satisfied?
Reparation is a big deal now in the continent and for the citizens. And the reparation has to be understood in a very holistic manner, starting from reparation from slavery, from colonizations, even new colonization. Many of the international institutions that exist today, be it financial side or even within the UN Security Councils, were set up at a time where many of our countries, did not even have independence. So those institutions are now outdated. They need to be reviewed. When we're talking about the debt burden within the continent, the fact that African countries have to pay higher premium, even compared to developed countries. When African countries go to those international financial institutions to borrow money, they pay up to 4 times bigger interest than even developed countries. Those is because there's an issue of risk and some other policy that basically do not benefit to the continent. So that's why we are calling for a revamping of the international institutions that are here.
And right now, as we talk, Africa has gained a permanent seat at the G20.
Yeah.
Do you think this also provides the AU a better avenue and opportunity to actually accelerate its 2063 agenda in alignment with all of the demands by CSOs, including OSF, regarding the human rights, peace, and justice in good governance?
Becoming a full member of G20 is a big deal for the continent. Of course, so far, only South Africa is an African member that is a full member of G20. So the continent has an opportunity basically to influence the discussions in G20 and to push for a much fair situations when we're talking about debt, when we're talking about financing for development. So for us, it's a very good deal.
And today you're talking about climate change as well.
Climate change as well.
Peace and security cooperation.
Peace and security, climate financing, and all those things. So at Open Society Foundation, we're basically supporting both the African Union as a member, but also South Africa, which is a member of G20, to be fully present in the discussions that is happening. And the main idea is to have a fairer deal for the continent.
Desiree Azogbavi is Africa Advisor at OSF. Well, in sports, Nigeria's Falconets have reached this final round of qualifiers for the 2026 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifiers after a 2-1 win over Senegal in Dakar to secure a 3-1 aggregate victory. While Kindness Chinaza Ifeanyi opened the scoring in the 19th minute, while Precious Oscar added a second and the 68th to seal the results. The Falconets now face Malawi for a place in Poland in 2026. In other news, in the FA Cup, Sunderland advanced to the 5th round with another win over Oxford United at Kassam Stadium. Senegal's Habib Diarra first half penalty proved decisive as Sunderland held firm despite a spirited performance and several fine saves from Oxford keeper Matt Ingram. And Confederation of African Football CAF has announced plans to expand the Africa Cup of Nations from 24 to 28 teams. CAF will also move the tournament to a 4-year cycle to improve preparation time and raise the overall quality of the competition. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio Broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudo Ju for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X and Instagram at WDR News, on Facebook, WDR English Service. I am Sankule Janko. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kaigama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga